Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, you get double the trouble today. So let them. We let them. We let them. We let them be. JD and I started this journey several months ago when he read a book called Let Them, the Let Them Theory, and he sent it to me and said, I think I could do a talk here. And I fell in love with it because it was a combination of all the teachings I have studied in Unity for decades now. And I said, let's do it together and let's make a series.
And as I was listening to Jessica sing the song about being brave, like, we haven't done this before. It is so much easier to just be here by yourself when you've actually coordinating. And
yeah, and I actually had to let him influence what I was going to say today.
And I had to listen to him influence what I was saying today. It was a journey, and you're on it with us now. Welcome. Good to have you. Good to have you on the trip.
Yay! And so we know that this teaching, where you may be familiar with it, you may have heard it because it's all over right now.
Literally, it's in the zeitgeist with tattoos, poems, Facebook posts, books, podcasts. Like, I almost can't go anywhere without seeing Let Them show up somewhere. And we're going to talk about how to take that and what it can mean for us individually.
And one of the blessings of letting JD interact with me in this way, it's like 10 years we've been here doing this at Unity, 11 years now at Unity San Francisco. We've never done a talk together. We've done them separately, but never done them together. So it was like, oh, let's do this. Let's dive in. And one of the things he did is he pointed out that the Let Them came from a poem written by Cassie Phillips some 3 or 4 years ago now.
Yeah, 2022.
Yeah. So we want to start with the poem by Cassie. It's called the Let Them Manifesto. Just let them. If they want to choose something or someone over you, let them.
If they want to go weeks without talking to you, let them.
If they are okay with never seeing you, let them.
If they are okay with always putting themselves first, let them.
If they are showing you who they are and not what you perceive them to be, let them.
If they want to follow the crowd, let them.
If they want to judge or misunderstand you, let them.
If they act like they can live without you, let them.
If they want to walk out of your life and leave, hold the door open for them and let them.
Let them lose you.
You were never theirs because you were always your own. Let them. Right? 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 And that is the essence of the teaching. That's why all the songs we've sung already today in service have the same message. Let them forget you. Let them so that we can let me. Let them. It's an ancient spiritual teaching. It goes back far beyond what Unity teaches. It goes back to spirituality. I'm going to turn it over to Mel Robbins, who's turned it into an industry. But first, I want to say that what she did was to post something on social media. And whatever you think about social media and what it's become, this blew up for a reason. It blew up because there is a longing in the world that this answers. So with that, I give you Mel Robbins.
I just heard about this thing called the Let Them theory. I freaking love this. If your friends are not inviting you out to brunch this weekend, let them. If the person that you're really attracted to is not interested in a commitment, let them. If your kids do not want to get up and go to that thing with you this week, let them. So much time and energy is wasted on forcing other people to match our expectations. And the truth is, if somebody, especially somebody you're dating or who's a friend or somebody you're trying to partner with in business, if they are not showing up how you need them to show up, do not try to force them to change. Let them be themselves because they are revealing who they are to you. Just let them. And then you get to choose what you do next.
So that got viewed 30 million times after she posted it. 30 million times, right? And then she went in and did the research. And she found all the different ways that spiritual teachers across the millennia have been teaching that. In spirituality, in Stoicism, in Buddhism, in detachment theory, in radical acceptance, in philosophy. We have all been hearing different versions of that.
And she became, I believe, the biggest amplifier. Although she's not the originator, she is the biggest amplifier, which allowed it to come into our consciousness. And so, for that, we're grateful and appreciative, but we want to go further than what that video clip could do. And we want to look at ways in which it has shown up. I love this proverb. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Just because someone chose to invite you to an argument, you don't have to engage with it.
And doesn't that make sense for what we're going through in our nation right now? Do we have to show up for every argument that they want to pick? No, we let them. We let them pick the fight. But it goes back even further. Jesus said on the Sermon on the Mount, according to Matthew, he said, "Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and say all manner of evil against you falsely. Blessed are you. Just let them do it," he could have added at the end. Because that's their stuff, not yours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And even going further back, the Buddha, you only lose what you cling to. Mm-hmm. You only lose what you cling to.
Hold on. Byron Katie in this century says, when you argue with reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time. Right? And then Carl Jung talks about it this way. What you resist not only persists, it grows. So when we argue with reality, when we join the argument from people, when we fight them when they're saying things that are false, we only are making it bigger. So the teaching is to let it go, to watch it, to observe it, like the thoughts that pass through our mind, that they only grow when we give attention to them and obsess on them. The same thing is with things that happen on the outside. What can we let go of and know a deeper spirituality? The let them theory, as we're going to talk about it and we're going to express it and demonstrate how it can work in your life, is a tool that you can use to practice, to embed and embody these spiritual teachings on an everyday basis so that what you want to achieve can really happen in your life.
So let me give you just the basics of the let them theory. And you don't have to go read the book. I'm going to give you just the basics of the theory, and we will then give you some ways in which you can apply it. At the very root, it comes from acknowledging that we often experience life with fear. We often experience life with FOMO, fear of missing out, or fear of being disregarded, or being diminished, or being dismissed, or being hurt. And that if we experience life and we choose to, if we have that experience and we choose to act on living life from a sense of fear, that's really, really incredibly limiting. And so the let them theory starts from that place of fear. Now, as Ken and I were debating how to share this lesson, I tried to think of experiences in my own life where fear has been crippling or gripping for me. I've got a lot to choose from. And the one I decided to talk about a little bit today was my departure from Stanford 5 years ago. For those who don't know me and my history, we moved here, moved to California in 2007 because Stanford recruited me away from NYU to launch and create a communications curriculum at the business school. A job I really loved, and I really feel professionally I did some awesome work there. But in 2020, I had an email that I received in January, which eliminated my teaching role after 13 years. And very difficult for a communications professor to get an email letting you know that your services are no longer needed. And I was like, okay, double down. I had an administrative role that I also really loved, and I will pour myself fully into that. And 6 months later, in a Zoom conversation, not even in person, my administrative role went away. And so in 6 months, I lost not one, but 2 jobs at a place that I really, really loved being at. And I was scared. I was frightened of how do I provide for my family? How do I ensure that was not only our financial income, but that was our health insurance. That was our kids' college plan. Like there was so much that I had poured into that role. And so Ken and I together, we talked about not to rush into something immediately, but to take some time to allow myself to go through all the stages of grief when you lose something that you care that much about. And it was difficult. And I tried to keep letting it go, and then I would pick it back up. And I tried to let it go, and I'd pick it back up. And I'm like, oh, I'm over it. I'm all good. Oh, no, everything's fine. No, we're good. It's fine. And then I would see somebody, or I would hear something, or someone that didn't know the news would talk to me about it as if I was still there. And I then had to, yet again, let it go. And I wish at that point in time that I would have had the let them theory. We got through it. I processed it. And even now, we had an incident on Friday where we were at a function. One of my clients, Stanford has become one of my largest clients. One of my clients is the recently retired women's basketball coach at Stanford. And we went to a celebration in her honor where she was going to be delivering a talk that I had helped her with. And I didn't expect it till we were in the parking lot, but we ran into some people that were a part of my departure. And I was like, okay, I have to be with this again. But the let them theory would have really accelerated my processing of that grief. So here are the basic 3 parts of let them. The first thing is you have to recognize that you are feeling less than. You have to recognize that something has happened that, imagine a seesaw and you're on the bottom part of the seesaw and everybody else is on the top part of the seesaw. And you're looking up going, wow, they've got it all together. Or I'm not as good as them. Or I'm not. And we self-diminish and we put ourselves down because of something that happened, either perceived or real, and we are in that fear of missing out. We're in that fear space. And so choosing to say, let them, just like the poem shared, let them. They want to run a communications program without the person who founded it? Let them. They want a leadership program that they're going to run with an outdated, old-fashioned leadership model? Let them. And as you say that, let them, the seesaw flips. But you have to be careful. Because now I'm up at the top of the seesaw and I'm looking down on the people who hurt me. And if I stay there, I'm in a position of superiority. The let them can become F them and can be something that is about me being bigger or better or more important. And that's not a healthy place to be either. And so what Mel Robbins has done from this great work of the poem is to then add to it a second step, which is let me. I first say let them, and that allows me to be out of that shame cycle, but then I get to let me. And that puts the seesaw back in equilibrium because at let me, I choose. How am I going to respond? What am I going to do? What is my next step? What is it that I can do with this information that gives me agency, that gives me ownership, and that allows me to go out and launch my own business, that allows me to attract Stanford as a client and attract a lot of other firms as clients and do the work that I love to do, but with my own agency and my own ownership of it. And that ultimately is what I did out of that really tough time in 2020 that has enabled us to have some stuff and some opportunities and some places I never would have imagined. Our goal in sharing this with you today is that you can do that faster and with more skill and ability because we've now got this idea of let them and let me.
Yeah. And the let me part, JD, is so amazing and hard, right? So I didn't share from platform when we were going through that in the middle of COVID. The upheaval in our lives was tremendous. But one of the things that happened when we let that happen, because we had no choice but to let it happen, right? Fighting reality, right? But the advantage of it is that we were then able to relocate. We relocated up to Marin County, and it's been a blessing for our lives and our family that would have never happened hadn't all that transpired. We could have dug in our heels, but we said, what is greater trying to express in our lives right now? And so that's on a huge scale, right? And that is, I know all of us face life on huge scales like that sometimes where literally your income, your way of living, your whole existence feels threatened in the moment. And to say let them in those moments is exceedingly difficult. Get that. And always the let me. So let me tell you a micro story of how I ran across this word this week. I love that whenever I'm giving a lesson, I get to experience it every week. I really do suggest that you just pretend that you're giving the Sunday lesson every week. Choose what it is and see how it's going to interact in your life, because it really shows up in remarkable ways. So as you know, I sit on the board of Unity World Headquarters. I'm the chair of the board, and I got this email a couple weeks ago, and I got into action about it. One of the ministers here in the nation wanted to put out a statement. Unity put out a statement about Donald Trump and about what's going on in our country right now. And he sent me the statement for us to review. And he sent not only the statement that he had crafted, but he also sent a document comparing Donald Trump to Hitler. And he wanted us to put it out there. And I was just like, so I listened and I thanked him for sending it. And I said I would bring it to the committee and we'd take a look at it. And I knew somewhere deep inside of me that this is not something that I was going to put my weight behind to put out there, because it was attack. It was blame, it was attacked, it was totally written in victim consciousness. And for those of you who know, I am a big proponent of the 4 levels of spiritual consciousness: victim, victor, vessel, and verity. So verity means oneness consciousness. I give that lesson all the time here. Every year I give it. But this was, everything is being done to people. They have no agency. They're the victims of our government. They're the victims of the Republicans. And it was very, very one-sided. But I sat with it during the week, and I crafted a slightly different response that stood for what I value, that stood for what I believed in, that stood for what I think we could do, that we could step out in the world and what we want to stand for and how we create a world that works for everyone, no exceptions and no exclusions. And I sent back the draft. And that day, he immediately responded saying, thank you for your letter, but it is totally inadequate. And I would rather send nothing than send what you wrote. And the part of me was just like, well, it's you. my high spiritual nature just took control of me. And I was like, and I sat down and I was going to type this like, oh, excuse me, I thought we were having a dialogue. My mistake. Ken, and walk off. And I didn't send that email. I waited for a moment and thought, let me demonstrate how this should be. So the next morning I woke up and I did my meditation and I thought about it and I processed it and I sat down and I wrote an email that went something like this. I said to this man, you have given me so much. I read your book when I first came into Unity 20 years ago. It changed my life. A book you recommended, I took and made a book study for our whole community. It's called The 15 Commitments of Conscious Living. Mm-hmm. And one of the things it says in that book is that everyone is our ally. I have been using that book and living from those commitments for the last 2 years. And I have been using it with my board. And I am so grateful to you for what you have brought to me and the very value of your life, right? That I thank you for sending that email. I will still bring this to the committee and I'll see what the committee wants to do for this statement. Thank you for your response and thank you for your passion, your energy, and your commitment to this. And he wrote me back almost immediately saying, thank you. I honor you too. I really do appreciate the work you're doing. Let's see how all this works out. And I was just like, oh. So tomorrow morning, I have a meeting with the people, with the committee to discuss this. And when we don't react and try and win every situation, enter, like the first proverb said, every argument that comes to our doorstep and every argument that comes to our mind, we can choose to let me take the high road here. Let me acknowledge what a gift this man has been in my life. Let me acknowledge the teachings that I hold very dear. And let me acknowledge the journey it takes for all of us to live the spiritual principles in our daily lives. It is not easy. It is not easy to take the high road when people are trudging along the bottom, raking up the muck. But it does us no good to get into a mudslinging contest. Everybody ends up dirty. Right? True. Everybody ends up dirty. And what this was a demonstration of for me was that when I pause, when I take my time, when I acknowledge the value that someone else has brought, even if they're not bringing it at the moment, because they can't see it and they're just as triggered as I am, right? To have the compassion for others, that we're all human beings having this journey. And to remember we're spiritual beings having a human journey, right? And that clicking, that waking ourselves up, we're not human beings, we're spiritual beings. It's waking me up. We're spiritual beings having this human experience. Let's bring our spirituality to the human experience. Let's bring our spirituality to the practice of interactions with other spiritual beings. And even and mostly when it's hard, to call them up higher, and then celebrate when they hear the call. This is a journey that we have all been on, whether this is your first day at Unity or your 1000th day at Unity. This lesson will not go away until we own it. Mm-hmm. This lesson will not go away until you completely embody it. This lesson will not cease until you can know it like you know the back of your hand. Right? So when you can say, let me take the high road and not feel resentment about it. Let me demonstrate how this can be done. And understand that in that process, you're teaching yourself how to stand in integrity, how to stand in your own strength, how to stand in your true purpose. For you're not here to be little. You're here to be bigger than you've ever imagined.
And with that, Ken, your response was not a manipulation to make that situation go the way he wanted it to go. Your response was, let's get into dialogue. Let's get into connection with one another.
Right.
And so it did not come from an agenda, as you shared it with me. It came from a true connection,
Right. And
which gives it more power.
I love this. I'm coming to grab your hand because I love that. It's like, I forgot this saying. It's like, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Right? It's like, if I had sent the first email I wanted to send, it would have felt really good to put in the zinger. Oh, I thought we were having a dialogue. But to actually just open a dialogue with him was a much more useful use of my time and my purpose here in life.
Exactly.
So we only shared half of this poem with you.
But before we do that, don't we want to talk about the rest of the series?
Yeah, we do. So we're going to tease you with there's more to the poem. But I'm going to Unity Village next week. So I have a meeting tomorrow. I'm going to the Unity Village, so I won't be here next week. But it's a 3-part series. So we're going to dive in next week to... It's really easy to have that kind of dialogue with someone who's not in my life on a daily basis and someone you don't have to see. But what about those people that you see every day, those colleagues at work that absolutely drive you bonkers, those colleagues here that drive you bonkers, right? Because we're a spiritual community. It happens here too. And the members of your family who drive you crazy that you can't escape. You can't just say let them because they're right there with you. Your significant others, your spouses. So JD's going to tackle how we have those difficult conversations with people we can't escape next week.
And it will be so much easier without him in the room. It will be a lot of fun.
And it's Mother's Day.
Coincidentally.
So if your mother is one of those people you feel you can't escape, this might be an opportunity to let her, right? And then to let you. So with that.
And we are going to read the second half of the poem, and we have also copied it. You can get copies downstairs in Harriet Hall during hospitality. But we didn't want to have you read it. We just want you to listen and enjoy the words of Cassie Phillips.
Let them show you who they truly are, not tell you.
Let them prove how worthy they are of your time.
Let them make the necessary steps to be a part of your life.
Let them earn your forgiveness.
Let them call you to talk about ordinary things.
Let them take you out on a Thursday.
Let them talk about anything and everything because it's you they are talking to.
Let them have a safe space in you.
Mm-hmm. Let them see the heart in you that didn't harden. Let them love you.